Insects with modified DNA have never come this close to being set loose in a residential neighborhood. But that could all be changing, especially if you live down in the Florida Keys. We're just learning that the FDA is now considering an experiment by British researchers that would allow for the release of millions of genetically modified mosquitoes into the area, all in the hopes of stopping the spread of deadly viruses. The two being focused on here are chikungunya and dengue, which can cause a high fever and severe pain in the head and muscles. Those are both expected to pose a greater risk to Americans in the coming years. So the question is, how exactly does this work? Well, researchers with the biotech firm Oxitec are genetically modifying these mosquitoes by breeding them with fragments of genes from things like E. coli bacteria and cabbage. They focus on doing this particularly in male mosquitoes, and then they release them to mate with wild female mosquitoes. The idea there is that the offspring of that combination would die and thereby significantly reduce the overall mosquito population. Now, researchers say the experiment would mimic what was already done back in 2012 in the Cayman Islands. 3.3 million genetically modified mosquitoes were released there, and within 6 months, the wild mosquito population reduced by 96%. But experiments like that haven't quite convinced all Americans that the same should happen here. In fact, over 138,000 people have already signed a change.org petition calling on the FDA to stop this Florida experiment from going through. A lot of people are associating this latest initiative with genetically modified crops, which have gained a lot of criticism in recent years. The petition points to the prominence of genetically modified crops and how their cultivation eventually resulted in unintended consequences, particularly for humans. They worry about what might happen if one of these DNA-altered mosquitoes bites them. After all, most of the research that's been conducted has been done by the company overseeing this, Oxitec, and activists say nothing should go through until more third-party, peer-reviewed research can be done. The question now is whether the FDA will listen to public opinion. If not, Florida Keys residents could see their new genetically modified neighbors move in by the spring. Reporting in Washington, Amira David, RT.